Mind if I join your little party?
It's time, boys, to get back into one of my all-time favorite anime series of all time, and that is Appleseed. We're going to be reviewing Appleseed. Appleseed Tartaros and Ouranos is a compilation film series based on the television Appleseed series that's been created by Shinji Uramaki. Dune and Newt and Briareos once again in the middle of the majestic fight between bioroids and human beings, in search of their own paradise in a world devastated by non-nuclear war and law and order. Appleseed never disappoints me completely. I have been a follower of the Appleseed project since the 1980s project Appleseed, and by then it drew me into the franchise. Not just love it, but just being an eye-opener of just what other projects that Shinji Uramaki would make. And we're up to this point now. We're up to Tartaros and Ouranos, and a lot of people had some mixed opinions about it. A lot of people didn't like it for understandable flaws, understandable reasons. And with me, I get it. I completely understand, but I feel like what makes a project good is if you stick to the lore and stick to what made us adapt to the project, in the first place. And to be honest with you, Tartaros and Ouranos didn't fail. It once again did not fail. It's not a perfect anime, but it was enough to pull me in from start to finish. What I liked about Tartaros and Ouranos is that not only did they want to go forward into the narrative of Dunan's and Briareos' perspective of what's ahead of them, but they wanted to focus more on the unanswered questions of what's behind them. And I feel like that's important. When it comes to the Appleseed series, we have already built like a very attachment of Dunan and Briareos from start to finish. But what I liked about this is that they have pushed the narrative of Dunan's history, her parents and her mom and her father, and just how it all built into an attachment ratio of Briareos, of how he interacts with Dunan, or just how she interacts with other people, and how it all got into a good play of what we was expecting into watching this project. I thought it was done well. And normally when it comes to adding the past and flashbacks into projects like this, I was beginning to see where the flaw was coming from, but it was done well. In fact, it unfolded a lot of behavior scenarios of how some of these characters was acting towards each other that made a lot of sense. Like Dune and Newt, for example. We've known her to be the outgoing daredevilish type of trying to prove something. Why was she always like this? In Briareos, we know that they is a love interest couple, but why is he so overprotective towards her? And they explain this in a perfect way, to the point where it made not just a lot of sense, but I ended up understanding Dunan's perspective, even when it came to her having a lot of debates towards Briareos. By her saying that she doesn't want him to treat her like a child, and him pestering her around a lot. And then Briareos literally just telling Dunan, hey, listen, I'm fulfilling your father's wishes, his dying wishes, by me protecting you. So I don't just see you as a woman, I see you as a person that if something happens to you, I'll never forgive myself. And hey, they actually showed some fan favorite familiars like Katomi and Athena. I was begging to see how they were and what they was up to. And not only that they are doing fine in this project, but they also matured and maneuvered in ways where I didn't really see coming. Like, for example, Athena, she's more kind now. She's not a bitch. I think she found a love interest. That's what I think. I think she didn't, I think she probably got dicked down and made an OnlyFans account, or she probably just found true love. That's what I think. I think Athena probably just found her calling in her life, because she's getting to an age now where her chances are slipping. So who's ever piping her down, keep doing it, man. And as for Hitomi, she has a kid now. These people are finding love, man. But it shows age, it shows maturity, and it shows us getting old too. Because when we met them, man, they was spunky. They had a one-track motive, and above all, they didn't really have a good purpose. But now they're getting up to the age where they have found their calling in life, and it made me feel like, you know what, damn, like, how old am I? Watching this since the 80s, and now they have a family. How old am I, man? Jesus Christ, I don't even want to think about that shit. Getting deep into this project, we are also introduced to a couple of side characters. Don't want to spoil it, but the side characters' introduction and variation was done well, especially when it comes to Dia. Dia is this side character that was done not just well, but she played a major part into the whole entire project. I thought her pacing was well. I thought I thought it was perfect. I thought by her having this complex to help doing it and give her own perspective of why she's doing it, and how every character was beginning to mold into her perspective was polished good. And it made me like her character a lot, to the point where when they were showing certain scenes of her character and certain perspectives and her main motive, it made me not just understand her character, but it made me feel the observation of her motive activities. And that's important for a side character, to the point where it was done strong. To the point where I'm talking in circles, but with Dia's character, she was important, man. She was very important, and I actually thought she was one of the mains too at certain points. When we get enough pacing, enough dialogue into Tartaros, we are introduced to the main plot, the main enemy, the main premise, and how everything unfolds. And the fights, the conclusion to Tartaros was good. I liked the fights. I liked the conclusion to it. We got some good mech fights on here, especially when it comes to how they began to observe the emotions of these characters as they was fighting. And again, how everything unfolded with Dunan's history and just the past tense of her father. It made perfect sense. In fact, I actually teared a couple of times when it came to her like trying to prove a point to a certain enemy. I do not want to spoil, because we saw the yin and yang between these two, and they both had certain feelings towards what their main goal was. The evil character had that feeling where I understood, and Dunan had her motivation where it felt very, very important. Meanwhile, she was trying to prove herself to Briarios at the same time. I felt this impact of me having stakes so high emotionally. I haven't felt this way since I've watched the Appleseed second film, Ex Machina and Angel Cop. Wrapping Tartaros up, I enjoyed it. It gave us a good starting point just to brace ourselves with Ouranos, and I can't say it ended with a cliffhanger, but it made us be aware that Ouranos had to be watched, and it gave me enough pacing and enough chemistry for me to keep going forward. Starting Ouranos off, they wanted to give us a prelogue starting point of what happened after Tartaros, so it takes place right after Tartaros, so you don't really miss out on a lot. But at the same time, they don't want to just give us more variation of the futuristics of what happened with Dunan and the main enemy, but they want us to get more past variation to her past as well. As in Tartaros, they gave us variation of her history with her dad and why she didn't like him as much, but it all made sense, and she ended up having peace and closure to her father. But on Ouranos, we was introduced to more variation to our mother, and it brought a lot of emotional weight, especially when it comes to people that can relate to losing their mom in front of their eyes. Her personal loss is gonna hit you hard. It hit me hard a lot, and it hit me hard to the point where I was actually mad they didn't give me a warning. But you know what though, this is an anime that's heavily based on shock activity, so it's old school. I gotta get used to watching old school animes as much as I did as a kid. So on Tartaros, the bond between Briarios and Dunan was explained very well when it comes to the attributes of Briarios fulfilling Dunan's father's mission to protect his daughter, and this was all played out well. But Ouranos, it wanted to look at Dunan's aspect of motherhood, how to handle her whole mindset and how to understand it when it comes to kid activity as well. And that was explained to the visualities of her and Hitomi. Remember when I said she had a kid? All that is explained well here, but at the same time, it was focused well too when it comes to pushing the narrative of still confronting this main enemy that wanted to destroy Bioroids and don't believe in the nature of Bioroid emotion, thinking that Bioroids is just literally machines without a soul, without a conscience, without reason. And Hitomi and everybody else was, of course, against this, but at the same time, it needs to be proven more than just with wording. And I think that ending with Ouranos was beautiful. I think by doing it, not just apprehending the enemy, but the enemy still could not fathom that Bioroids was still not, was still not relevant. And the way how it ended, man, it kind of just threw everything into the enemy's face like, damn. Like, was I wrong this whole entire time? Like, was I really blinded by vengeance and stuff like that? So I loved it. I loved them both. I love Ouranos and Tartaros. They was both played out pretty well. I own, the compilation film. I did not buy the series. Thank God I did, because I heard that this I'm holding right now a rare gem. I bought this when it released. I had to see. That's why it's so important to buy things as soon as you see it. But I will say this though, a lot of people complained about the visual aspects of the animation. 3D is not the way to go. The reason why I gave this a pass is because we've been doing 3D with Appleseed since forever. After the animation in the 1980s, they just went, like Shinji Aramaki just went full 3D with this shit. And honestly, I don't mind it at all. But I do understand where people are coming from, because when it comes to the other previous projects, the 3D was great. The 3D actually fit the Appleseed narrative. But on this one, I guess he had like a low budget, so he wanted to minimize the visuals of it. So I do see where it's coming from, but I think the reason why it still won me over is because how impactful and how good the story narrative was. I'm not saying that it can be easily overlooked to certain fans when it comes to them loving the Appleseed lore, but all I'm going to say is that I completely understand why others thought it was a flaw. Overall, Appleseed, Tartaros, and Ouranos was a very good watch. I thought I was going to walk away from this project by just being overwhelmed with the action, but I was overwhelmed with not just with the story, but just how emotional I was by knowing more about Dunin and Biarios' past. This was perfect. This was a good anime project, and to give both of these a rating, I can't rate them both in one rating. I gotta rate them both in two different ratings. So I have to give Tartaros an A+. I have to give that an A+. Tartaros ended well. It gave me the impactful bracement of Ouranos, and Ouranos, I gotta give that an A+ too. I don't got a problem with none of these animes at all. I really enjoyed it. I was glued to the screen. It's been a while since I watched the project and I had to cut my phone off. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say for today. Please stay tuned for upcoming anime reviews and videos headed your way. This is Hugo, your critic teacher. And I hope you all have a good day.